I'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, September the 13th, 2021. With that, we'll ask the city recorder to do the roll call.
Yes. Miss
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks.
Here.
Alderperson Amacher.
Here.
Barrett. Blackwell.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
McGee.
Here.
7 present.
Very good. I'd like to ask Reverend Don Dixon if he would please lead us in identification and the pledge of allegiance. Please stand.
Let us pray. Almighty God, Creator, this journey back to normal following the virus has taken longer than we can remember or care to deal with. Help us not to grow discouraged. Help us to use this time not only to know what needs to be done in the future, but not be content with what has taken place in the past. Help us, Lord, that we might use the journey that we're on for a more inclusive world and conforms more to the ideas that create society. Give us harmony to our leaders that gather for shaping our lives together as the people of Tullahoma. Give all citizens patience and keep us becoming a mean people when problems and difficulty arise between us. May we be kind to one another in our differences and always ready to affirm that which we hold in common as a people. For it is in thy name that we pray. Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Dixon.
Welcome.
Are there any commendations and certificates tonight?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we'll move on with proclamations and awards. We do have a proclamation that I would like to read tonight. This is in recognition of Suicide Prevention Awareness. It's lengthy, so bear with me, it is important. This is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, September 2021. Whereas suicide is one of the most disruptive and tragic events a family and a community can experience, with more than 1,100 lives in Tennessee each year and an estimated 25 attempted suicide for each suicide death. And whereas suicide is the 9th leading cause of deaths in Tennessee, it's the second leading cause of death for among youths of age 10 to 14, as well as young adults 25 to 34, and the third leading cause for children and young adults 15 to 24. And whereas more than 3 lives a day are lost to suicide in Tennessee, which means we lose 21 Tennesseans each week and 97 people per month. And whereas Tennessee's veterans, active military, National Guardsmen, they face a disproportionate risk as compared to the general population, and with more dying from suicide than from combat. Cell phones, excuse me. Whereas public awareness of this tragic problem is the key to preventing further suffering and loss of life, and the risk of human self-destruction can be reduced through awareness, education, and treatment, as the highest risk for suicide is among the survivors of those who have died by suicide or those who have attempted suicide. And whereas suicide prevention has been declared a state priority by the governor, and the Tennessee legislature has declared teen suicide prevention as a state priority in partnership with the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network to implement the Tennessee Strategy for Suicide Prevention. And whereas Tennessee is a national leader in the effort to prevent suicide, being one of the first states to develop a suicide prevention and evaluation plan covering the lifespan And whereas the Governor of Tennessee has appointed a Suicide Prevention Network Advisory Council to coordinate and implement Tennessee's strategy for suicide prevention. And whereas every member of our community should understand that throughout life's struggles, we all need an occasional reminder that we are all silently fighting our own battles. And whereas we encourage all Tennesseans to take time to inquire as to the well-being of their family, their friends, and genuinely convey their appreciation for their existence by a gesture that they deem appropriate. A simple phone call, a message, a handshake, a hug can go a long way towards helping someone realize that suicide is not the answer. So now, therefore, I, Ray Norris, Mayor of Tullahoma, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim September 21st, Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Tullahoma, and urge all citizens to work to prevent suicide and raise awareness and tolerance around us for all people affected by this strategy. Ray Norris, Mayor. In keeping with that proclamation, I will note that there is a suicide prevention walk on Saturday to be taking place in Manchester. I believe we do have a team from our city. City government, in fact, will be participating in that. Alderman Blackwell has been coordinating, spearheading that, so thank you for doing that, Mr. Blackwell. Thank you. Okay. Are there any comments from citizens? Other comments from citizens?
Hi, my name is Erin McCullough. I live at 121 Silver Street. I am speaking today not as, I'm a member of the Imagination Library of Coffee County. I sit on the board currently. And also on Saturday, we are having an event before the walk for anybody who wants to help promote childhood literacy and give free books to children birth to 5 in Coffee County. We are having our annual pancake breakfast at the Mercantile Cafe in Manchester from 8 to 10. Tickets are $10. You can contact any ILCC board member, and I'm here if anybody needs one. But we encourage you to come on out and have some delicious pancakes and support childhood literacy, and then go walk off your pancakes at the Suicide Prevention Walk so you get the best of both worlds. So just wanted to make everybody aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCullough, for that shout out for the pancakes. I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Thank you again. Any other comments from citizens? If not, we'll have reports from our aldermen. We'll start with Salmaker there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, not a whole lot of business the last couple of weeks. All our board meetings seem to have ended up on the same week. So the Coffee County, how do I say this, Consolidated Communications Committee meets on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. for anybody that's interested in attending, as well as the Tourism Council is this Thursday at 1:30 in this boardroom. On Friday, there are several of us on the board who will be attending this, but I will be in Chattanooga at the Elected Officials Academy for Part 2, because we did Part 1 back in February. And then throughout the rest of the weekend, we will be at the Tennessee Municipal League Conference. There's a couple of us on the board who are going to be attending that. So we have a busy week ahead. Tonight's small business shout out is going to go to Templar Shooting Sports. Here's what I want to say, the reason I chose them for this evening. Of course, we just passed the anniversary of the worst terror attack on U.S. soil this past Saturday. And there was a wonderful event that we have every year at the high school. I was unable to attend because I was out of town, but I did get to see some of it live on Facebook, and want to continue to thank our first responders and our military and our police, as well as our veterans here this evening. I am an avid patriot, constitutionalist, and Second Amendment supporter. So with that said, Templar Shooting Sports is our hometown range. They have an indoor range. It's their tagline is "No experts, just professionals." They do security guard classes, women's handgun and self-defense classes. They have a date night the fourth Saturday of the month, in which childcare is available even. They have catering and range for 2 hours for 2 people, if you didn't know about that. And it's actually decent priced. They're located at 1101 South Jackson Street. And you can contact Richard Brooks if you would like more information on that. Mr. Mayor, I believe that's all I have for this evening.
Very good, thank you. Alderman Berry.
Mr. Mayor, I've been pretty busy, not stirring up any trouble though. But I have shout out to a couple of things that have been real important to me. Public safety is always a big thing. JP Kraft at the Parks and Recreation has been really proactive on looking at a camera solution in our parks and greenways, and hopefully we'll have something to bring to the board here. I met with him, and it was actually kind of funny. 2 vendors met us at the same time. That was probably awkward for them to look at some different solutions, but that was pretty exciting. And thank you to, I don't know if he's here, thank you to JP for being extremely proactive on that. We met this week, last week, about the TAC and radio system, which hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about, and that was something that I had started looking at probably 4 or 5 months ago through efforts with Manchester and Coffee County Sheriff's Department. So that's a pretty big project that hopefully we'll talk about. I'll be at the Elected Officials Academy. I think that they should require that statewide. Everybody should have to do it. And the TML conference, I had my first meeting with the Tullahoma Economic Development Corporation. I'm going to steal a line from our former mayor. It's a great time to be living in Tullahoma. There's a lot of exciting things that can't talk about, but a lot of exciting things happening here. I think I'm going to miss my first planning commission meeting, though, Mayor. It falls on Monday of the conference, so I may drive down here and then drive back up, but I may miss that first. One, but that is all. Well, one last thing. I want to remind everybody out there to be kind. There's a lot going on in the world today, and positive conflict is okay, but be kind to each other. That's it.
You get a pass to the planning commission. Ms. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I would like to also give a shout out to our first responders and to THS ROTC for their memorial stair climb, remembering 9/11 that they had at the football field here at our high school. Thank you for doing that. Also, I will be attending my first Coffee County Industrial Board meeting on Wednesday, so I'm excited about that. Tullahoma Housing Authority will meet this Thursday. I did attend the tailgate party that was held last Friday. That was pretty cool for the kids. The kids really enjoyed getting the football players and the cheerleaders to sign their t-shirts. That was pretty neat. Also on October 30th, that is the date that I have selected for my second trunk or treat to be held at Jefferson Street Park. More information coming on that as we get closer to that date. And on Tuesday, September the 27th, I have been asked to speak at the Sunrise Rotary Club at 6:50 in the morning. So I'm excited to do that as well. And also, I still have information on resources for people who are still having just a difficult time. You know, these numbers are still going up. Some of the factories have, you know, shut down for 2 and 3 weeks at a time already. So I do have a list of resources that are available for people who just need some help. So if you would like to get a copy of these resources, I do have them. And I think that is all for me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Blackwell.
Yes, thank you. To caddy off what Alderman McGee just said, and also Alderman McGee, I don't know if you checked your email, but you're also now, we have a board meeting that you and I will both be on Thursday as well. She's part of the Tullahoma Daycare Center board now again, so I'm excited to have her on that. Jefferson Street Park, thank you so much, JP, for all the work that's happening there. As of this morning, they were putting asphalt down on that I don't know how that decline into towards the actual basketball courts themselves. We're having a goal to have that finished before Cernovia's trunk or treat. And with that same thing, I think we're hoping to do a dedication for those basketball courts for Nanava and Tennyson Holmes at 1 o'clock on that day, on October 30th. So, we're hoping to have a very large event, I think, especially seeing as how they have, once again, 281 descendants. So I can only imagine that that's going to make for logistical issues for Synovia. So sorry about that. Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team that I'm part of, I just wanted to thank Chief Williams because I did meet with him to talk about, how he was able to provide me with some information to take back to them, as well as some thoughts and ideas that we have so that we can try to really work toward intervention and prevention when it comes to domestic violence. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do with that. Regarding the Downtown Council, I sent an email to the downtown business owners, just introducing myself to them, giving them my contact information, and let me tell you, they quickly jumped to email me back. So I've heard from a lot of them. I'm trying to get through all those emails, and I just want to thank them for their immediate responses. It's so exciting to see so many people, really wanting to be involved with what's happening down there. With that being said, I know that we are hoping to hear back whether we received a grant to work on our facades downtown. So we should hopefully know that. If Winston were here, he'd probably give me the exact time frame, but in the next 2 months or so. So fingers crossed that happens. Next week is the Board of Education meeting, so we'll be having that. I saw that everybody received information regarding FARA, so we can't talk about that because it'll be something we'll vote on, but I just wanted to give you all a heads up that the Board of Education meeting is next week. Coffee and Conversations, I do this once a month. That's this Thursday at 9:30, this time at Starbucks, not the Celtic Cup, because I'm going to try to make more rounds more often. Like Mayor Noah said, this is National Suicide Prevention Month. Awareness Month, and this weekend is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We have, I think, 10 maybe team members at this point from the city of Tullahoma. We're also a top fundraising team, so that's exciting too. But if anybody would like to register, afsp.org/Coffee County. Honestly, the Coffee County Walk is doing really well in the state, which is fantastic to see, especially since it's the first year doing it. And the last thing is I missed the tailgate party. We were supposed to go, but Jack, we had a bit of a health issue, so we didn't go. So if anybody wants birthday cake, though, because we're going to celebrate Jack's birthday at it, it's outside that door, so feel free to have some. And that is all.
Thank you. We may need that birthday cake before the 9th.
Especially with the study session.
Alderman Dunn.
Yes. So I went to a tree board meeting. This was my first tree board meeting. I've never been a part of it before, so it was kind of exciting to be in that role. And we have the largest willow oak in the state, so that's pretty exciting. So I think Lyle, if he was here, he would be able to speak more to that. Also, some of the things that we're really going to concentrate on with the tree board this year in particular are East Park, where our Arboretum is. A lot of people don't know where it is, and so trying to raise more awareness of where our Arboretum is going to be huge. Also, the protection of the trees on both private and public land is going to be a focus for the tree board. So you'll hear more about that as we go. The Go Green, Jordan Wilkins has been handing out some of those decals, so he's putting together business packets for new businesses, and included in that, it's got the I Recycle Tullahoma decals on there. So I appreciate that very much, Jordan, and getting that word out. And we should have, I heard from Jordan Young, who's with the Tennessee Environmental Council, and he's one of the ones that is preparing our Rock Creek 319 grant, and he's found a spot to really focus on in particular as far as a rain garden goes there, so I'm excited. And we also have a rain barrel giveaway. This is the last one. Hooray. September 27th is the next date on that, so at the farmers market. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Alderman Dunn. Mayor Pro Tem Blanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're on light two. We've had plus 24 signups to our internet service. That's just every month is just jumping leaps and bounds. We have great local service, nice coverage, up to gigabit if you want it. We have a PUA's sponsoring a movie night this Saturday the 18th. It's Minerva. I think it's down at the, right at the, what's the name of this, Big Springs Park here. There will be food, snacks, pizza.
It's right at the Dragon.
We'll also have a public power week, a celebration September 30th at 3 o'clock. There'll be giveaways there, and pizza for those who like pizza at 3 o'clock on a hot afternoon. DRUFC, North River Utilities Commission will meet this Wednesday. Arts Council will meet coming up. Thanks for all of the firefighters that participated in the remembrance. I don't know if y'all remember where you were 20 years ago Saturday. I sure do. And that played on, that tugged on everybody all weekend. Tough times. I think I've told other people this. This is the week after 9/11. We were probably as tight together and as one as a country as we have been maybe since World War II. Boy, I'd hate for another tragedy to have to get us back together like that. We're a very polarized country. I wish we could come together, but I don't want a tragedy to make us come together. So, be nice to one another. We don't always have to agree 100%, but, let's get along and not have to have divisiveness over, the flavor of bubble gum or whatever. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Good comments. Speaking of 9/11, the fire department had a wonderful commemorative ceremony for that. Kenny, thank you for putting that on, Chief. It was very touching. It as good as could possibly have been, in my opinion. So thank you again for that. Of course, I attended also the stair climb at the high school for the firemen, and everyone made it. That was commendable. Very, very rigorous for your men. This, speaking of the COVID, and it's going around and still staggering the numbers that we're seeing, our healthcare professionals are taxed to the limit. And next week, I'll be going down to the hospital to do just a shout out to the day shift and night shift. It'll be we'll do it either at 6:30 in the morning or at 6:30 at night when they're doing the shift change, so we can catch them all at one time. Just to give them a thank you for the work that they're doing, struggling with COVID and the things that they have to go through on a daily basis. And when they tell the stories of the number of people that have died in their care, it's touching. So we need to do everything we can to support them in that effort. Also, on a note of activity today, I made a proclamation to recognizing the 2021 National Assisted Living Week. It was heading was compassion, community, and caring. Made that proclamation over at the Morning Point today, and the citizens there, I read the proclamation. I won't read it tonight, but it's in your packet. But they were very appreciative of that proclamation to them, just recognizing the healthcare industry for what they do. So with that, we'll turn to the city, to the city attorney, Mr. Bursham.
Good evening. As I reported to you last month, or the last meeting, we're working with Mr. Willis at the TUA regarding a sewer easement across the easterly edge of the airport property to serve some additional development on the Ledford Mill area, Ledford Mill Road area, and in the Ledford Mill area as well. There's a new subdivision planned out there, and we also want to extend sewer to the existing properties that are there as well. We're also working with the Health, Educational, and Housing Facility Board of the City of Tullahoma on 2 projects. One of them is NHC has notified us that they want to redeem the property and pay the balance due on the bond that was issued by that board in 2012, which was a bond to facilitate the acquisition and construction of that facility. So we have a special study session at 5:30 this Thursday afternoon to meet with the board, and we'll discuss the NHC proposal at that time. So if anybody wishes to be at that meeting, we're certainly welcome you to come to that meeting. We're also working with an exciting project, the possibility of entering into a contract with a law firm in Nashville and others regarding the rehabilitation of Tullahoma Village. That's an 89-unit apartment complex, a Section 8 complex on South Frankton Street near the soccer fields and the park down there in South Tullahoma. That meeting on Thursday night will also involve a presentation regarding that situation. We're also continuing work on the deeds for the easements for sidewalks along the Kings Lane Avoca Road project that you all have authorized some time ago. There are a number of deeds. We're still in the process of identifying some property owners and getting information to put the deeds in final form for execution. And we have a couple of other planning and codes issues like we always do, and we're still working on matters relative to title certification for the eventual property delinquent tax sale that we're working on too, as well. Do you have any questions?
I had one question.
Yes.
With the rehabilitation of Tullahoma villages, when the negotiations and the discussion is happening, is there a conversation around ensuring that there is, as they're being rehabilitated, that the tenants will be able to either stay there or?
From the preliminary information that I have received, there will be very minimal displacement of tenants. There will be some upgrading of some of the facilities to accommodate disabled people.
Okay.
There's going to be a complete renovation of the exterior of that and modernization of those, but I understand that if any tenants are displaced, the displacement will be minimal, will be for a short duration, and they will displace them either to hotels
Great.
or other adequate facilities so that they won't really be upset tremendously by that. It'll be a real positive thing for our town to rehabilitate that facility is 50 years old, believe it or
Yes.
not. And so that'll upgrade it. I think that we'll be able to attract more people to that facility that feel comfortable living there.
Thank you for doing that.
But come at 5:30 on Thursday, because the attorney from Nashville that represents the developer is going to be here to discuss that project, and you can ask any question you want. I've only reviewed some documents that have been sent to me, and I haven't had an opportunity to discuss it with him at length at this point.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Worsham. And to your point, Ms. Alderman Blackwell, any displacement will not be at any expense to the tenants that are there.
Good.
That's the main thing. Okay. Ms. Booty.
Okay, thank you. I thought I would share, I also attended the stair climb at the high school and appreciated their support for letting us do that, and having so many young people there that were supporting it as well. And then Saturday at the memorial at Fire Station 1, Alan Harris was there and presented Patriot Awards, and just wanted to recognize those. Our former Chief Richard Chasteen received one, and Investigator Jason Maloney in our police department. Also, I thought if you have not seen it, you may want to drive by the mural project on the formerly Quilting Dreams, now the Bookshelf property has begun, and the artist should be painting there Mondays and Wednesdays until the project is complete. So if anybody wants to stop by and meet the artist, her name is Jenna Lee Ipock, and she is a Tullahoma resident muralist. Also, I thought I would share with you, if you weren't already aware, Jordan attended the Tennessee City Managers Association Conference in Chattanooga, same place that will be later this week. And while he was there, the Municipal League mentioned that the Town and City publication that we all receive, that newspaper, that it will be going all electronic soon. So I'm maybe one of those, I'm sort of sad to see that paper document go, because it's one of the few newspapers that I still read, and I enjoy reading it. But I just wanted to give you a heads up, it's going all online. I also attend regularly the Coffee County Joint Economic Community Development Board meetings and the Franklin County ECD board meetings. Theirs will be tomorrow, so Tom Robinson and the mayor and I will attend that. I just wanted to share our Coffee County Industrial Development Board. We learned that both the executive director and the assistant director have left. So I know Alderman McGee has been waiting to meet the contacts there, and so there is still an assistant named Annie that's there, but we're sort of in a strange transition time with that right now. And along those lines, I know the mayor and I will be attending a meeting with John Hatfield with the state ECD and TAEDC Chairman Lynn Seaburn to just discuss how Tullahoma can have a stronger partnership with the state and especially during this transition. Also had an interesting meeting last week with TUA President Brian Skelton, and he let me know about an exciting project that they're working on to bring fast charging, let me get it right, level 2 fast charging electric vehicle charging stations to our downtown. And so we'll be working together on that. Attended the meeting that Alderman Berry mentioned to learn more about the state's communication system that we may be interested in joining. And then also attended the monthly chamber board meeting. One of the things I'll share from that is that this year they are accepting nominations from anyone in the public for the Grand Marshal for the Christmas parade. And they are also celebrating their 100th year this year. And last but not least, I attended on Friday the noon Rotary meeting with Mayor Noes and Winston Brooks, and our senior planner, Mary Samaniego, gave a presentation about the Think Tullahoma 2040 plan, and we got to hear good discussion and comments about that plan. And so that just gives me the opportunity to remind anybody that may be watching or listening, if you have not taken our survey or gone to our website to learn more about the plan, we are still very interested in any comments or input that you have and want to share with us your vision for the next 10 and 20 years in Tullahoma. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moody. Since your return from your maternity leave, it hasn't taken you long to get back in the swing of things, has it?
Things haven't slowed down one bit, I'll tell you.
Thank you for that. Okay, we'll move into the consent agenda. Tonight, we remind you that all matters on the consent agenda are considered routine. They'll be enacted by one motion. And during the portion of the meeting, if anyone objects to anything on the consent agenda, you may ask to be removed. Consider it a separate item. Don't think you'll have any problem tonight, since we only have 2 items on there, and they're minutes from previous meetings. I'll just read the captions, the minutes from the August 9th meeting and the meeting from the August 30th meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
from Barry, and seconded by Blackwell. Any discussion? Well, red for approval, green for approval, red for no.
Did. Womp womp. Just yours, just. Okay. Can you guys, yeah, it timed out.
Would you like for us to
And
vote
Noes,
again?
yes, vote again. There we go. I see everyone voted. There we go.
Consent agenda is approved 7-0. There being no other old business, we'll move directly into new business. Item number 21-116. Consider approval of a certificate of compliance for Mr. J. Dameron at a new retail liquor store located at 622 Wilson Avenue. I'd like to get a motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Daniel Berry,
Second.
seconded by Alderman Almacher. And the floor is now open for discussion. And I'll open that discussion by giving you a little bit of background that has transpired. The reason for this new liquor store being, having an authorization to have a new liquor store is the fact that our population in the city, by last consensus, was over 20,000 people. Our city code indicates that we are eligible to have one liquor store per every 4,000 residents, or a fraction thereof. So up until now, we've only been eligible to have four liquor stores. Now we're eligible to have 5. This is one of the reasons we're having this discussion. In view of that, you have this particular item number on the agenda for Mr. J. Dameron. That's located at 622 Wilson Avenue, which is diagonally across the street from Trinity Lutheran Church, to put things in location. We also have on your desk today with 2 other applicants that we have that have been received, but didn't make it because of waiting the background checks. There's been some discussion between our city recorder and Mr. Moody, our city administrator, with the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission today about how do we decide which one of these applicants should be considered. Well, according to our code, we can only have one additional. So we have, at this point, we have 3 applicants, and I'm thinking there's another 1 or 2 on the way. I have certainly not had an opportunity to review the other applicants that have been submitted. And if there had been, I still would not have been able to submit just one. According to the conversation that Ms. Moody and Ms. Golden have had today, the attorney for Alcoholic Beverage Commission have indicated that they would only accept one applicant from Tullahoma for this music license, forcing it on our board to select that one applicant. I quite frankly don't see how anyone could make, there's no criteria. We have no criteria for making that selection. So I don't know how we could possibly make a selection rather arbitrarily for just one. My consideration for you, my suggestion for consideration is that why, and by the way, it's rather arbitrary, this 4,000, one liquor store per 4,000 people is rather arbitrary. It could be 0. Many cities have 0. They don't have any restriction on the number of liquor stores that you can have. They let the marketplace decide how many liquor stores will survive. I have no problem with removing that clause from our code that restricts the number of liquor stores, personally. But I'd like to have some discussion from the board, see what the thoughts are. I believe you had your hand up first, Ms. Allmarker.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I too am a great proponent of letting the market regulate itself. Laissez-faire never seems to steer us wrong. One thing that I did want to point out is the 2 new ones that were just handed out to us are within a couple of feet from each other, and I noticed the last name is the same. I'm not sure if they are any relation, but one is 2200 North Jackson and one is 2230 North Jackson. So, well, that's their residential address, but is that the address of the location of the liquor store? Are they side by side, or are they? Okay, right, okay, so they're not necessarily, okay. What I'm asking is, are those 2 buildings connected, 2200 and 2230, or are they separate buildings?
I think Ms. Golden can answer your question.
Okay,
So Mahendra and Rita put down 2200 North Jackson Street, which would be the Raceway, across the street basically from Lowe's.
okay,
And then Bonnie and Maiden Patel put down 2230 North Jackson Street, which is currently the retired dog doctor, sorry.
Yeah, the Tullahoma veterinarian.
Veterinarian, okay.
Right
I could never
across
think of
from
veterinarian.
Verizon.
Dr. Singleton?
That is currently up for sale, that building, so.
okay,
Oh,
so
cool.
it's a new, okay.
Okay.
Alderman Berry, excuse me, are you finished, Alderman Longworth?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say that I, too, am a proponent for repealing the restriction.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Berry.
A couple questions. One, may I ask this?
Keep it, I think we need to direct with their.
The old veterinary clinic, is that have a contract or a lease on it, or is it still for sale?
So all we're concerned with, as far as the city, is the location. They would have to provide that information to the ABC when they apply for the license.
Which if it's not, the state will say no.
Correct.
State,
Whether
you have
it's
to have a contract or
a
a lease for the state
lease or
to do it.
sale or whatever. All we're concerned about is the address.
No concern about whether it go through or not?
That's not
Not
our
us.
purview, actually.
Do
As I understand.
they currently or another, I noticed they live together. Both these applicants live together. Or all three of them live together. Do they currently have another compliance certificate in town within that family, or one of the individuals have one already?
Yes, so Mr. Mahendra and Miss Rita are husband and wife, and they currently own the Liquor World on the corner of Jackson and Washington.
My thought, so the state allows you to have two,
Per the whole state of Tennessee.
correct? So my initial, I'm assuming Bonnie does not have one. Do we know?
Bonnie, no, that would be the son.
Does not have one, but they have the same address, so it's safe to assume that they're related. My gut says that if we have an applicant that already has one, and applicants that do not have one, we should give one to an applicant that does not have one already, because what we don't want is the same person or same family controlling all of the liquor stores in Tullahoma. Would be mine. I don't want to pay $50 for a bottle of Evan Williams. I drink Jack, but that would be my kind of thought there, is there's really only one. Knowing that the state, I mean, and I guess if we can't use criteria, I had talked to them and they said those are things to consider. You can't build, the raceway has to have a separate addressing for liquor store, and you have to have a contract or a lease or own the property for the building you put it on. So as it sits, there's one applicant that really has. So I would say, I would vote yes to Dameron's as it sits, and then I would say separately, let's have a conversation on changing the ordinance, whichever way we want to change it. That's it.
The situation is this, we have other applicants besides the two that we're looking at here tonight. There'll be others coming. So we still are faced with the ABC attorney requiring that we submit only one applicant, for which we would have to make a decision as to which one of the others.
I would vote yes that we submit Dameron, and then if we want to add more later.
How would you do that when you have others? What criteria would you have, we'll have?
His was submitted and put before us, the
No,
others are
well,
not.
this is the thing. I'd like to speak, if you don't mind, really fast. So one of the frustrating things, I think, in this situation is the arbitrariness of what we're doing right now. My understanding is that, and we received, Mayor Noes and I received an email from someone in advocacy for the Patels right now, because essentially what happened was they came to put in their application on the same date as Jay did, and they weren't able to put their application in, and they went back for whatever reason. And so Jay's came before us, before them, even though they could have been able to put their application in at that point, is my understanding. If I'm missing something, I apologize. So what happened is now we have 3 applications at once that should have been filed on the same day or could have been filed on the same day that weren't. But because they weren't filed on the same day, because they were for some reason turned away at the downstairs, theirs are not on the docket on the same time. What I had understood earlier, which might be a misunderstanding, was that the state would essentially see who we send up to them, and we could send all 3 of them, but that's now apparently not true according to the state. Again, let me finish really fast. So my frustration is that I don't really think we should be approving one without having a idea of how we're going to move forward if we're realizing that this is arbitrary. If we as a board are saying maybe we should be considering lowering the limit, I'm in agreement with Mayor Noes. I think we should be deferring it. We should have a conversation about what we want to do moving forward, and that's how we should be doing this. It seems very unfair and unequitable with the situation and the way it happened, which was no fault of anyone.
At this point, I'm going to entertain a motion to defer.
Oh, but
Wait,
not everybody's spoken yet.
You have other
Not
people needing to
everybody's spoken.
speak and conversations on it.
Yes, or 14.
Is there any restriction, I don't know the code as far as where a retail liquor store can operate in relation to a center of worship?
Yeah, and I did have a question.
May I address some of these issues? I didn't know till this afternoon that there had been any conversation between the attorney for the Alcoholic Beverage Commission and city officials. They did not contact me. I have not had an opportunity to review the state law. I have reviewed the Tullahoma Code, and I did talk briefly with the mayor and Pro Tem Banks before this meeting tonight. In the Tullahoma Code, it says that this board shall have the opportunity and shall review the qualifications or an applicant. The applicant will be one applying to the state ABC, not to the city, for an application for a retail liquor license. The city does not grant those licenses, the ABC does. And that we shall determine, if the majority of the board don't know these people personally, that they are of good general character, and from the investigation that we will conduct, found to be of good, be good, and in the opinion of the majority of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, the applicant will refrain from a violation of applicable statute of the state governing sale of alcoholic beverages. If we don't know them personally, a majority of you don't know them personally, then we need to investigate this, first of all, to determine whether or not these three applicants are of good moral character and therefore deserve to be approved by this board for submittal to the Alcoholic Beverage Commission. I have not reviewed the state law to determine how and why the Alcoholic Beverage Commission can require us to submit only one recommendation to them for a certificate of moral character. I'd like to know that before we move forward. So I'm speaking in favor of a deferral of this till I can investigate, talk with their attorney, and furnish information to y'all, and then y'all can conduct the appropriate investigation if you feel like you need to.
Motion to defer until Mr. Steve Worsham can make those proper.
I second.
We have a conversation on that.
Motion to
Discussion.
defer requires there be no further discussion on the subject motion.
There's no motion
Only
to,
on the subject of the deferral.
you can motion to postpone to a specific action or to a specific date, but there is no motion to defer, correct? So are you postponing to,
Do we have a motion to defer?
A specific
I don't-
action
there's not a
of
motion to defer.
Mr.
I don't think we can.
motion
To
to
the next
postpone
postpone.
until we hear back from the city attorney?
Is that what you meant?
Is that what you?
Nobody's answered my question about the distance to.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can answer that too. We do have some requirements about distance in our city code in relation to the proximity of educational institutions and places of worship. We do have that.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more comment I would really like to make.
I'm sorry. Can I finish that answer?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Is it
I just
300
happened, I
feet?
did print a page of it that has that answer. It's, no retail stores shall be closer proximity to any school, public or private, any community center, any church or religious building, any public library, any hospital, any funeral parlor, or any public recreation area than 300 feet measured from the major entrance of said retail store to the major entrance of said aforementioned institutions or facilities.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And there's more, but we can provide a copy of this.
This is all part of the investigation that we should conduct, I think, is that, yes.
Okay, we do have a motion to postpone,
Until Steve.
and seconded by,
Until Steve Worsham can,
and seconded
Contact
by
the
McGee.
I did, I second.
McGee.
Any further discussion on the motion to postpone?
Well, there was some discussion on this board about opening up the ability to have more than 5.
Would it even be necessary to postpone if we opened that ability up, was going to be my question to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, in that respect, I think this subject, for me, certainly requires further study. Without deciding tonight we're going to open it up to more liquor stores or not, certainly requires more investigation on my part.
We'd have to change the code.
Right, which is a question I think for Mr. Worsham still.
You'd
Well, I
have,
hate to
you'd have
delay
to,
business.
you have to enact an ordinance on 2 readings as you do any other ordinances in order to change that provision in the code. So we couldn't do anything tonight but just discuss the possibility of doing that. It's not on the agenda for a change, nor has an ordinance been prepared. So that ought to be part of our investigation and discussion looking into this matter, in my opinion.
Call the question.
We've not had this discussion to add a liquor store in over 20 years. So I don't think it's inappropriate that we delay the action on this till we have our feet on solid ground. So we do have a motion.
I'd like to ask real quick, while we are postponing, what we're giving him time to reach out to the attorney, the ABC attorney, to get clarification. And then what's the criterion for us talking about this again?
Are we also asking Mr. Worsham to, during this postponement, to look at what it would look like, different codes, what other cities, and for Ms. Moody to come up with a proposal if we wanted to drop that down or if we wanted to eliminate that?
To change the ordinance.
To change the ordinance, or, yeah. Is that something that we can also look into with this postponement?
Absolutely.
Great.
It's incumbent upon us to do that.
Great. Yes. That's, I think, what I would like to see with the postponement, but you made the motion, so I don't know if that has to be in the motion or
Well,
not.
and I'm just clarifying,
Yeah.
because when we postpone, you've got to hit certain criterion before it comes back. So we're waiting on the city attorney to look into those 2 things. Are they coming back to us with a list of an evaluation framework to choose? Because we're still going to have this problem of we've got 3 people to choose from, no matter if
Unless
we wait till.
unless we change our ordinance.
Yeah, hopefully, actually,
I mean, unless we
I'm
do
really-
that, but you're
my
talking
hope is that
months.
this won't be up to us at all, that it will be the ABC board,
Yes.
and we'll just
But that's not
send them
how
all.
the
But
state
that's-
works, though.
Well, that's what Mr. Worsham is trying to
Okay.
decide.
But in case that it doesn't, I just want to make sure. If we
Well-
don't change that ordinance, is it coming back to us with a framework on this is how you choose between these
Can we just make a,
3 people?
The one thing I can say to that, and we haven't had time to review the law, but my understanding from the conversation with the attorney today is that there are 4 criteria in law that you are to consider. And they're already stipulated, and that's what our application is based off of.
Right.
And so I really agree with your summary of it, that at the core issue is, when you're doing your work, you're really only stating whether this person has the character, the good moral character to conduct business in our community. And that's why we agree that we're concerned about this advisory opinion that came down from the ABC saying that you have to decide which one to pick. Because if all things being equal, how are you going to pick?
So we're
If
just saying
they've
let
all
them
passed a
choose.
background check, they're all good residents of our community, how are you going to pick? There-
so can we make the
Right.
motion specific to the next board meeting? Motion to
That's what I'm trying to
postpone
get at
the next board
is
meeting.
we
I
need
think. Set a
Yeah,
date.
Let's not postpone this indefinitely.
Yes.
Do you
know
think
what
that you
means.
could have
Let's
that
do
by
this.
the next board meeting? Okay, then let's do that by the, gosh, is that the
27th.
27th?
And then next
Defer
board
to the
meeting, are we
27th.
taking up the issue again?
Sorry, postpone
of
to the 27th.
The
I
ordinance.
apologize.
the ordinance, or are we taking up the issue of selecting one of the 3?
I think that would depend on what Mr. Worsham
What
finds
he
out.
finds out,
Yes.
wouldn't that depend
What
on
we can
that?
anticipate is at the next board meeting, we'll have a minimum of 3 and most likely 4 applicants from which we would have to be forced to choose unless
Yep.
Mr. Worsham finds that the advice that we received today from the attorney is incorrect, and we can submit all 4,
And
and
repeal
that
our
way the
ordinance.
ABC selects the ones that they have the criteria for making a selection, and we don't.
How would they know any better than we do, though?
We're just passing it off to somebody else to do at that point.
I think their position is that they don't have a restriction that limits the number. So if you tell them three applicants can have a certificate of compliance, then their board will consider their applications and potentially approve all three. Because at the state level, they don't have a restriction on how many liquor
Right,
stores.
so that, I mean, they're not gonna pick for us.
So
the
that's
way
why
it
they're
is now.
recommending to us that we limit it before it
So
goes to before them.
it seems like if Mr. Worsham comes back and says, hey, you guys do have to make a decision, then what we should be asking for as our next step is what are we gonna look at with our ordinance? Or do we wanna change it or not?
I just don't want to turn this into a 6-month ordeal.
Right,
Well,
but we
yeah,
also.
Well, I can speak to that. It
How
can.
long's it been since we had?
Yeah,
a new
it's all-
liquor
that's what I was
store?
gonna say.
It's been 20 years,
Over 20
so if it
years.
takes 6
Well,
months,
if I can
there's
interject
whiskey
on
to
that.
be found in 4 other liquor stores in this town.
I think that you can take as long as you need to discuss whether or not to repeal what's in our municipal
Right.
code. But as far as the certificate of compliance, we have 60 days to take action. And if we fail to either approve or deny, it's automatically approved after 60 days.
And that would be absolutely unacceptable for us to fail to approve or deny, in my opinion. People are waiting on us to make business decisions, and that is just beyond what we should
Well,
do.
But keep in mind what she said, if we don't approve within 60 days, it's an approval.
It's an approval.
It's not a denial.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so,
Great.
See, and I don't really agree with that.
And
Well,
then the
but we
state
state
would be in the
law. It's state
position
law.
of having
I
all
know that.
three, you know?
You can disagree with state, there's,
oh, yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, there's tons of state laws out there that I don't agree with.
Agree.
God saith the Lord.
Call to question.
Vote green for approval of the
To defer.
postpone.
To the next meeting.
To the next.
To postpone.
Postpone to the next meeting.
All right,
Yes,
there we go.
We still have to
everybody.
choose.
And, so.
Motion to postpone till the next meeting. It's approved 7-0.
Okay.
Whoever thought that reaching the milestone of having 20,000 people would present such challenges? Not me. New business. Item number 21-117. Consider approval and authorize the mayor to sign an engineering services agreement with Griggs Maloney, Inc. in the amount of $25,000 and establish a total project budget of $315,000 in the capital projects fund, with $225,000 provided in state grant revenue and $90,000 in local matching fund for the CDBG project on Wagner Street. That's a culvert on Wagner Street that's failed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Barry, seconded by Bob Blackwell. Any discussion? Green for approval, red for no.
And Mayor, I did invite Ryan Maloney with Griggs and Maloney to attend the meeting, only because he's done prior work for the city of Tullahoma. His firm assisted us with repairs to all the crosswalks in the downtown. And just in case you wanted to ask him any questions or meet him, I asked that he attend.
Please step to the podium. Tell us what you've done for us so far.
Good evening, Mayor and Aldermen. Yes, as Jennifer alluded to, we helped repair some of the crosswalks that were failing around the downtown square. So I drove that project on the way in, thought it was holding up very well. I hope you guys are pleased with it. Happy to be here tonight and appreciate your vote of confidence.
Let me ask a question. Have you looked at our project on Wagner Street?
Yes, sir, I have.
And what do you anticipate proposing for that?
Well, the budget presented in the imminent threat grant is going to easily accept, I believe, direct culvert replacement, the same type of pipe that's there now. We'll evaluate other options with staff that might fit within the budget allowable. And then you've got the repair of the road itself and the sidewalks as well.
I think that I've looked at that project personally, and I think it's sorely needed. Glad we can get a grant to help us with the funding for it. So thank you for your work on it.
Well, I appreciate you having us.
Thank you for coming
tonight.
down this evening. Okay, item number 21-118, consider and authorize the mayor to sign
Did we vote?
No, you didn't vote.
We voted.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Totally missed that, sorry.
You said yes.
I was like, did I vote on that?
I missed the board. I didn't see
118,
which.
consider approval, authorize the mayor to sign consulting services agreement with the South Central Tennessee Development District in the amount of $14,000 for 2021 CDBG grant on Wagon Street. That's the same project, but with the South Central Development District would be helping us administer that grant, monitoring the activities that occur, managing the finances, managing the progress on it as well. So that's what that item is for.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Barry, seconded by McGee.
Yes, I have some discussion, please. So I just want to clarify that this is separate from the South Central Tennessee Tourism Association, correct?
Correct.
This is a separate
Yeah,
entity?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
not even the same.
Okay. And I read what this is for. So we're essentially paying them $14,000 just to make sure that wages fall under.
Essentially to administer the grant.
Well, not, if I can elaborate on that.
Yes.
And this speaks to why federal projects are so difficult. They actually have to interview the laborers on site on a weekly basis, and they have to observe the work that they're doing. So say someone's being paid federal wages as a plumber, they have to observe that that they really are doing the plumbing trade.
So we have to outsource this?
We would like to.
Why? $14,000 to make sure that they're getting paid correctly?
Well, otherwise our staff would have to do it, so that's.
Yes, and we're asking to add another position to our staff tonight, so I just feel like this is just wasteful. I mean, I realize it's only $14,000, but
Right.
still, it's $14,000. And that's just the way, I just have to ask the questions.
Yeah.
so.
Might also add, though, that South Central also helped us put this grant application together, then go after the grant.
They did. The South Central Tennessee Development District represents about a 13 or 14 county region, and they administer all of home grants, CDBG grants.
But they are
HUD
not
grants.
administering this grant for us. They are doing a task on a consultant basis that we could actually do ourselves, and we have the manpower to do so.
So what I would just explain is that because they do this for all of those communities on a regular basis, I feel like they're much more well-versed in the federal requirements than we are. And some of the benefit that we get is administrative in addition to this. So federal grants are often audited, and they will come in, for instance, and review all of our records and put them in, review them for audit purposes before the federal auditors come in.
But that's not a
And they
part
did
of,
assist with the application process.
that's not a
as
part of
well.
this contract, though.
Right. The primary work in this contract is what I described, to oversee that federal Davis-Bacon wages are complied
Yes.
with.
I personally can't support this, but that's. just
Any
me.
further discussion?
And my question, Ms. Moody, is it would cost the city more than $14,000 to do it ourselves, plus pull people off of projects.
Train
We don't
them.
have the manpower.
Right.
Train them how to do the record system, train them how to interview each of the different types of employees at the construction sites. I mean, this isn't just a tiny job or task that they're undertaking.
Right. I think it speaks to the capacity. The development
Yeah.
district is providing the capacity for us to be able to administer a federal grant
Yeah.
that, quite honestly, if we didn't have their support, we would not apply for the grant.
Yeah.
We just don't have the staff to administer this.
It may be
Rigorous,
neat to
But
have,
this is not
it may be neat to
administrative.
have them come in at some point to kind of talk about some of these things in depth, just so we have a better understanding of what they do in these type programs and why they exist.
Well, I mean, you work for South Central Tennessee, so I'm sure that, even though it's a separate entity, I realize that, but you obviously are going to be an advocate for the organization that you work for.
I don't work for
No, that's a
that
different
co-
organization.
It's completely separate, has no relation whatsoever at all. It's like working at Wendy's and McDonald's.
Call the question.
Yep.
Agreeing for approval, Rich, or not?
That is exactly true.
Motion passes 6-0. Item number 21.
6-1.
6-1, 7-0. 6-1.
Thank you.
Item number 21, 119, consider approval and authorization of the mayor of the city administrator to authorize the mayor, the city administrator, and the city attorney to negotiate the lease or sale of the former Rock 10 building located at 411 East Carroll Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Carroll, motion from Blackwell, approved, seconded by Barry. Any discussion?
Yes, discussion. I think that we need to delineate, lease or sale. I'd like to know if we're voting on to put it up for lease, or if we're voting on to put it up for sale, or why it says lease or sale. What's the thought process there?
Part of the negotiation, we're voting to authorize them to negotiate either a lease or a sale.
I understand. So I'd like to know why lease or sale, why not decide which one we are wanting to do?
Yes.
Are we wanting to retain the building, or are we wanting to sell the building?
Yes, so we have an existing tenant that has operated under a lease for the last 5 years. They allowed the lease to expire, which I think was beneficial to the city. There are some terms in that lease that we'd like to renegotiate. The tenant would like to stay in the building if possible and is interested in renegotiating the lease. They also are potentially interested in purchasing the building from us. I think that'd be beneficial in returning it to the tax rolls, but also getting the city out from under the liability of what we know is a failing roof structure. And so we have had the city engineer, Scott St. John, do a visual inspection of the roof. It is in need of a total replacement. There are areas of the substructure that are damaged that would have to be repaired. And we're in the price range of easily $500,000.
Thank you for that. That was my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So our preference would be a sale if we can negotiate that.
Absolutely. Thank you. I agree.
This will come back to the board for approval. Yeah.
Okay, we're authorizing that negotiation at this point. Vote green for approval, red for no. That motion passes 7-0. Item number 21, 120, consider approval to convert a part-time position to a full-time position in the finance department and authorize related FY 2022 budget amendment to support the same. That information is on page 68 of your packet. Hope you have reviewed it. Get a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Blackwell, seconded by Barry. Discussion?
Discussion. Though I am a huge proponent of Mr. Wilkins joining our team, I do feel this is somewhat inappropriate to be making a new hire and creating
This is a different
positions.
one. This is the one before it.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is the finance. Excuse me. I'll hold that thought until the next one. Yes.
I do have a quick question on awesome use of the ARPA funds. Do we know what the cost of this will add to? Just so we know.
So the estimate I saw was about $25,000 per year.
For the
Is
next
that
3
correct, Ms.
years, or?
Wilson?
That's about right,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So-
We can fund it, the position, for up to 3 years, and we're proposing to fund half of it since we have a part-time position budgeted already.
Cool, thank you.
My apologies, Mr. Mayor.
Call the question, green for approval, red for no. That position is approved, 7-0.
Thank you, and I'm sure Ms. Wilson thanks you.
Ms. Wilson thanks the board, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Item number 21, 121. Consider approval of a full-time position to support the mayor's office and the city administration, authorize related FY 22 budget amendment to support the same. That information is on page 70 of your packet.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Blackwell, seconded by Barry.
Real quick question. Same question as before. On the amount.
So this position, we have a part-time position funded through the end of the calendar year only. And roughly, let me see what I wrote down. We're looking at about $47,000 annual expenditure. So So that would be salary and benefits.
Is this because part of the ask for this is to help with our grants and things like that? Could this somehow be tied to ARPA to help as well, since it's community development and grant seeking and?
I hadn't considered that. Primarily, I had been looking at this position from the standpoint of some of the things that have not been backfilled and some of the duties that are assigned to one of our department heads that really could be done by someone else that could devote more time to those activities.
I was just asking that based
And when
off
I
of-
mentioned grants, my thought was that the focus should be on, many of our grant process and grant writing is very decentralized. And I'm actually a proponent that I think it's working more efficiently that way for a lot of departments to seek their own grant funding in areas that they're more familiar with. But there is a gap. There are a lot of grants, and again, maybe more federal grants that we should be going after, that no individual department would really be responsible for that project. And so some examples of that, Winston Brooks has applied for all of the Cool and Connected grants that have allowed us to have free Wi-Fi in the downtown for the last 5 years. He's sought grants that have helped to extend our greenway, grants that have supported, I think, the Go Green Committee and the tourism initiatives in the city, the downtown programs. So as he has really moved over and taken more of an active role in our economic development initiatives and leading the planning department, that's left him with less time to do research and grant writing, public information duties like managing the website and our social media accounts and taking photos and planning events. There's a lot of community events and support for the mayor's office that used to be done by Mr. Brooks that now he is no longer even working in City Hall. So that's more of the thinking that I had behind having a position to kind of fulfill those duties and
Mr. Mayor.
do more of that work.
If I may, this was what I was alluding to. So a couple of issues. I'm a huge proponent of bringing Jordan on full-time, but I do think that we need to have a specific job title and job duties first that he knows that he would be responsible. I would hate to know, hey, I'm going into a job and I don't even know really what I'm supposed to be doing or what my requirements or what the expectation is, as well as how he would be evaluated. He needs to be thinking about that. It needs to be specific and contingent to his job duties. But what I was saying prior is I think that the timing is off for this. Number one, because we don't have those job duties and that specific allocation for that. But number two, we have 2 department heads that we need to get hired first. And I feel like that needs to supersede. We've got 1 department head. You've had 8 months to find a replacement, just about. And you've known since January, essentially. I mean, you knew probably before that was going to be coming. And so, we're bringing somebody on and creating a position for them when we've got, a sitting interim director who is more than qualified and worthy of the job, who needs to have that title, or we need to, move forward. And as well as we've got to, get another a fire chief. And so I just feel like those need to come first before this position.
May I say something?
Yes, further discussion.
I'm very excited to see this. Thank you for bringing it to us. One of the things that I think has been missing, and I've said a bazillion times to everybody, all the staff members I can say, is I really am thankful that we're going to have some more ability to write grants. I would love to one day see us have our own, someone dedicated to writing grants. I think it'll bring money on that we're missing out. So sometimes you have to invest a little at the very beginning to be able to get a lot more out of it, and I think this is exactly what we will be doing. I'm hoping that Jordan will go out there, get us a ton of money, and bring it back to Tullahoma, so thank you for that.
No pressure.
In that regard, I think the idea is that there's a lot of grant money out there that we're really missing. it's fallen through the crack. We're not
I think
even-
there was-
Not even aware that it's there.
I think there was one year that, and I could be wrong, and Winston might remember, but I believe that Winston was responsible for something around 10% of our budget that year
Bless
because
his
of
heart.
grants that he sought, so, and I know,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to postpone until we have a specific job duties and
So,
requirements for this
Were you still
position.
talking?
I was, thank you. So I'm really looking forward to having Jordan on to fill some of those roles as well.
Okay, we do have a motion to postpone. Does it have a second? Hearing none. And there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. Vote to approve the item 121. So agreeing for approval, read for no. That motion passes 6-0.
6-1.
6-1. It's getting later all the time. With that, we will adjourn our Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, and we'll convene the Beer Board. We'll call the Beer Board to order. Are there any public comments regarding the Beer Board this evening? If there's no public comments, there is an item on the consent agenda. That's the minutes of the August 9th meeting from 2021.
Move to approve.
Motion from Blackwell.
Second.
Second from Mayor Pro Tem Blanks. And agreeing for approval, read for no. That passes 7-0. Being no other old business, we'll move into new business. That's a request to approve an off-premises beer permit for Mr. J. Patel and Ms. Patel regarding the West Lincoln Market located at 610 West Lincoln Street. Get a motion on the floor?
Move to approve.
Motion from
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks and second by Alderman Blackwell.
Oops, sorry.
And are there any other Patels here that would care to comment, make a statement? If not,
Oh, yeah.
any discussion?
Well, he's right there.
No comment.
Care to make any comments? No.
He
Okay,
just said thank you.
Do we have the normal questions?
there's no more question.
The normal?
Your normal
Have
questions.
you, what, how are you gonna make sure
Do you
these?
check IDs?
Will you step to the podium, please? You have no question for us, but we have some questions for you.
All right, what kind of question do you have?
Have you operated a beer sales before?
Yes, I did.
Where is your store?
It's in Dixon, Tennessee.
Okay. Do you have something in place to guarantee, ensure beyond any equivocation that there's no sales to minors?
The only difference between the Dixon and over here, they have you can sell the beer over here 8 o'clock in the morning to the 3 o'clock in the morning. But over there, you can sell the beer when you open the door. They don't have any limits. So that's the only difference. I can just figure it out. Otherwise, you cannot sell under 21. They change, and that's it. And one more thing, the person who drunk, you cannot sell the beer to. That's that's the most important thing, yes.
Have you had any incidents in your current location for beer sales?
No, knock on wood, no.
Okay. Are you familiar with all of the beer sales rules and regulations in Tullahoma? Have you read them?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any further questions for the applicant? Call the question. Green for approval, red for no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's approved 7-0, and we thank you for your investment in Tullahoma and hope you do very well. Thank you. With that, we will adjourn the beer board, and 7 o'clock, before we go into the study session, if anyone would like a 5-minute break, you're welcome to take a 5-minute break.
And
at
cake
this
break.
time.
Cake break.
Break.
Cake break. Get some sugar.